I didn't find out about the affair in some dramatic way. No lipstick on a collar, no mysterious phone calls in the middle of the night, no perfume that wasn't hers. It was quieter than that, the kind of quiet that creeps in slowly, until one day you realize your life has been rearranged behind your back. My name's Daniel. I'm 37, and until about 8 months ago, I believed I had a solid marriage. 12 years with the same woman will do that to you. You build routines, you build trust, you build a life so normal it feels unbreakable. My wife, Lauren, and I lived in a quiet neighborhood outside Denver, not some mansion-filled gated community, but a comfortable suburb with tree-lined streets, 2-car garages, and people who waved when they walked their dogs. We met in college. She was studying marketing, I was grinding through an engineering degree. She had this laugh that filled a room, the kind that made people turn their heads. I remember thinking back then that if I could make that laugh happen every day, I'd be doing something right with my life. And for a long time, I did. We had a normal rhythm. I worked for a mid-sized construction firm, managing project designs and site logistics. Lauren worked at a local real estate marketing agency. Nothing glamorous, but we were comfortable. Friday nights meant takeout and Netflix. Saturdays meant errands, sometimes hiking if the weather was good. Sundays were lazy mornings with coffee and pancakes. The kind of life people online love to call boring. I called it stable. Looking back now, the first crack probably showed up about a year ago. Lauren started talking about a new client her agency had picked up, a big developer moving into the Denver housing market. The guy's name came up a lot at dinner, Evan. Evan's brilliant, she said one night while scrolling through her phone. He's already built 3 massive communities in Arizona. Another night she mentioned him again. He's surprisingly chill for someone that successful. Then again, Evan said our campaign idea was the best pitch he'd heard all month. I didn't think much about it. When your spouse works in marketing, talking about clients is pretty normal. Eventually, she said they were throwing a launch party for one of the developments and asked if I wanted to come. I went. That was the first time I met him. Evan Carter looked exactly like the kind of guy you'd expect to run big development projects. Early 40s, expensive haircut, expensive watch, the kind of confident posture that comes from years of people saying yes to you. He shook my hand firmly and smiled like we were already friends. Daniel, right? Lauren's told me a lot about you. That should have been a warning sign, but I just smiled and said, hope it was mostly good stuff. He laughed and clapped me on the shoulder like we were old college buddies. His wife was there too. Her name was Megan. She was quieter than Lauren. Dark hair, thoughtful eyes, the kind of person who seemed like she was always observing the room instead of dominating it. We talked for a few minutes near the bar. She told me she worked remotely as a graphic designer, said the constant travel with Evan's business used to be exciting, but had started getting exhausting. There was something calm about her, grounded. Lauren and Evan spent most of the evening bouncing between groups of people talking about marketing plans and development phases. Megan and I ended up chatting longer than I expected. Just casual stuff, movies, travel, how weird it was watching our spouses operate in their professional worlds. When the night ended, Lauren was buzzing with energy. That went amazing, she said in the car. Evan loved the campaign ideas. Yeah, I said, he seems like a nice guy. And I meant it. For months after that, life kept rolling. Lauren started working later some nights, saying the Carter project required extra coordination. Sometimes she came home excited. Sometimes she came home exhausted. I didn't question it. Why would I? We've been together over a decade. Trust becomes automatic after that long. The moment everything shifted happened on a random Tuesday afternoon. I had taken the day off because a contractor meeting got postponed. I was sitting at the kitchen counter answering emails when Lauren's iPad lit up on the table. She'd forgotten it that morning. A notification popped up. At first I ignored it, but it kept buzzing. 3 messages in a row. The preview line caught my eye. Last night was incredible. I stared at it for a second, thinking maybe I'd misread it. The sender's name was Evan. My stomach did something strange in that moment. Not a sharp drop, more like a slow, heavy tightening. I told myself there was probably a harmless explanation. Work joke, sarcasm, something innocent. But curiosity has a way of pushing past logic. I picked up the iPad. The screen wasn't locked. Their message thread opened instantly. And just like that, 12 years of trust started unraveling in my hands. The messages went back months. Flirting at first, then jokes that crossed lines, then conversations that clearly weren't professional anymore, then pictures. Nothing explicit, but intimate enough to make my chest feel hollow. And then the messages from the night before. Evan, still thinking about you. Lauren, we have to be careful. Evan, worth it. Lauren, God, last night was insane. I don't remember how long I sat there reading. Maybe 10 minutes, maybe an hour. Time stops behaving normally when your brain is trying to process betrayal.
They'd been sleeping together for 6 months. Hotel rooms during business trips, late marketing meetings, even one night when she told me she was staying at her coworker's place after drinks. That one made my hand shake, because I remembered that night clearly. I told her to text me when she got there safe. She had, while she was in a hotel with him. I kept scrolling. More lies, more plans, more casual cruelty disguised as romance. At one point, Evan wrote something that made my vision blur. "Your husband has no idea how lucky he is." Lauren responded with a laughing emoji. A laughing emoji. I set the iPad down and just stared at the wall in front of me. There's this strange moment when you realize your life has split into two timelines, the one you thought you were living and the one that was actually happening. I didn't scream, I didn't throw anything. I just sat there breathing slowly, trying to hold myself together. Eventually, I picked up the iPad again. That's when I noticed something else. Megan's name appeared in the conversation once. Lauren had asked him if Megan suspected anything. Evan wrote back, "Not a chance. She trusts me." For some reason, that line stuck in my head harder than anything else. She trusts me. I thought about the quiet woman at that launch party, the one who'd stood beside me near the bar talking about movies while our spouses floated around the room together. She had no idea either. Two people being lied to, two people living fake versions of their marriages. I closed the iPad slowly. The anger didn't come right away. First came this deep, cold clarity. Lauren was planning to attend another big event the following month, a developer networking party Evan was hosting. She'd mentioned it casually the week before, said it would be a good opportunity for her career.
At the time, I told her I'd probably skip it because work would be busy. But sitting there in that quiet kitchen, another thought started forming. If Evan thought his wife trusted him, if Lauren thought I was clueless, maybe it was time someone changed the atmosphere of that little party. Maybe it was time the wrong people showed up together. And that was the moment the idea first crossed my mind. Taking Evan's wife to that party. Not as a date, not as some cheap revenge fantasy, but because maybe she deserved to see the truth the same way I had. Suddenly, brutally, in a room full of witnesses. I didn't know exactly how it would play out yet, but I knew one thing. That party was going to be unforgettable. I didn't confront Lauren that night. That's the part people usually don't understand when I tell this story. They assume rage takes over immediately, that you explode the moment you discover something like that you storm into the house, throw the phone down in front of your spouse, and demand answers. But rage is loud. What I felt was quiet, cold. I spent the rest of that afternoon sitting in the kitchen with the iPad turned off in front of me, replaying every moment of the past year in my head. Every late meeting, every work dinner, every time she came home smelling like hotel soap instead of her usual perfume. By the time Lauren walked through the front door around 6, I had already made a decision. She didn't know that, of course. She kicked off her heels by the door, tossed her purse onto the chair, and gave me the same quick smile she'd given me 1,000 evenings before. "Hey," she said, "you're home early." "Meeting got canceled," I replied. My voice sounded normal, calm, even to my own ears. That was the strangest part. She walked over and kissed my cheek. A quick, casual peck like always. I felt nothing. No warmth, no comfort. Just the faint smell of her shampoo, and the knowledge that those lips had been kissing someone else for half a year. "How was your day?" she asked while opening the fridge. Quiet. She grabbed a bottle of sparkling water and leaned against the counter. "We had a long meeting with Evan today," she said. There it was. The name dropped casually, like it meant nothing. I watched her face while she said it. Not looking for guilt exactly, more trying to see if there was any trace of the person I thought I married still hiding behind the lies. "She's really pushing for that launch party next month," Lauren continued. "It's going to be huge. Developers from all over the region." I nodded slowly. "That the one at the Carter Place downtown?" "Yeah." She smiled a little, excited. "You should come. Last one was fun." It almost made me laugh. I thought about the messages on the iPad, the ones from the night before, the ones talking about how insane their last time together had been. And here she was inviting me to another party with him, like we were all just colleagues and spouses enjoying a nice networking event. "Maybe," I said. She didn't notice anything unusual, at least not that night. We ordered Thai food, watched half an episode of some crime show, talked about mundane things like grocery shopping and the neighbor's broken fence. 12 years of marriage creates muscle memory. Conversations flow automatically. But inside my head, something had shifted.
Every word she said passed through a new filter. Every smile looked rehearsed. Every casual touch felt fake. That night, after she fell asleep, I lay awake staring at the ceiling for hours. Around 2 in the morning, I reached over quietly and picked up her phone from the nightstand. Still unlocked, still careless. Their conversation thread was still active. Evan had sent another message. Wish you were here. Lauren hadn't responded yet. I set the phone back down. Then I did something that probably sounds strange. I looked up Megan Carter online. Her social media profiles weren't private. Instagram mostly. Photos from vacations, hiking trails, a golden retriever named Atlas. Pictures of their house, holiday dinners, and a lot of photos of Evan. Smiling together at events, standing on beaches, clinking wine glasses. If you didn't know any better, they looked like a happy couple. That made my stomach twist, because I realized something important while scrolling through those pictures. Megan wasn't stupid. She wasn't naive either. But trust can make smart people blind, just like it had made me blind. The next morning, Lauren left early for work. I waited about an hour after she drove away. Then I did something I never thought I'd do in my life. I messaged Evan Carter's life. The message sat on the screen for almost 5 minutes before I hit send. Hi, Megan. This is Daniel, Lauren's husband. We met briefly at Evan's launch party last year. I know this might sound random, but I was wondering if you'd be open to grabbing coffee sometime this week. My finger hovered over the send button before I finally tapped it. For the next 2 hours, I regretted it. What was I even doing? Maybe she'd ignore it. Maybe she'd tell Evan. Maybe I was about to make everything explode before I had a real plan. Then my phone buzzed. Her reply popped up. Hi, Daniel. Yeah, I remember you. Sure, coffee sounds fine. Is everything okay? I stared at that last sentence. Is everything okay? The honest answer was no. Nothing was okay. But instead I typed, just wanted to talk about something work-related involving Lauren and Evan. Hard to explain over text. 3 dots appeared almost immediately. Then her reply. All right, that sounds mysterious, but okay. I'm free Thursday afternoon. Thursday. 2 days away. I felt my pulse pick up a little. Perfect, I wrote. There's a place called Maple Street Cafe near downtown. 2 p.m.? Works for me. And just like that, it was said. The next 2 days felt surreal. Lauren moved through the house like nothing was wrong. She hummed while making coffee, complained about traffic, showed me a funny TikTok one night on the couch. Meanwhile, I was living in a completely different reality. Thursday came faster than expected. I arrived at the cafe early. It was one of those cozy places with exposed brick walls and big windows looking out onto the street. The kind of spot people bring laptops to and pretend to work while drinking overpriced lattes. I picked a table near the back. At exactly 2 o'clock, Megan walked in. She spotted me quickly and gave a polite smile before walking over. Hey, she said, setting her purse down. It's been a while. Yeah, I replied. Up close, she looked exactly the same as I remembered. Calm, composed, the kind of person who made you feel like things were under control. She ordered an iced coffee and sat down across from me. So, she said lightly, you sounded serious in your message. What's going on? For a moment, I just looked at her. This woman had no idea that her marriage was built on the same lie mine was. And I realized something right then. I wasn't here to dump screenshots on the table. Not yet. Instead, I asked a simple question. How long have you and Evan been married? She blinked, a little surprised. 10 years, she said. Why? Happy? That question made her pause. Not in a suspicious way, just thoughtful. I think so, she said slowly. Marriage has ups and downs, but yeah. Why are you asking me this? I took a breath. Because I found out something on Tuesday. Her expression shifted slightly.
What kind of something? I leaned back in my chair. The kind that makes you question everything you thought you knew about your spouse. Her eyebrows knit together. Daniel, you're starting to worry me. I nodded. Fair. Then I said the words that changed both of our lives. I found messages between Lauren and Evan. Silence fell between us. Not dramatic silence. Heavy silence. Megan's fingers tightened slightly around her coffee cup. What kind of messages? I held her gaze. The kind that go back 6 months. Her face didn't collapse the way people expect in movies. Instead, it went very still, very controlled. Are you saying what I think you're saying? She asked quietly. Yes. Another long pause. She looked down at the table, then back at me. Do you have proof? I pulled out my phone. I took screenshots. I slid the phone across the table. She read them slowly. Every message, every line. Her breathing changed almost immediately. Not crying, not yelling, just deeper, like someone trying to stay above water. After about 2 minutes, she set the phone down. Her voice was calm. Too calm. Okay, she said. I blinked. That's not the reaction I expected. She looked out the cafe window for a moment, then back at me. I had a feeling, she said quietly. That surprised me. A feeling? She nodded faintly. Evan's been different this year. Distant sometimes. Secretive with his phone. She rubbed her temple. I just didn't think it was your wife. The words hung there. Our spouses. Our shared disaster. For a few minutes, neither of us spoke. Finally, Megan let out a long breath. So what now? She asked. I leaned forward slightly. Well, I said, about that party next month. Her eyes narrowed a little. What about it? A small, cold smile touched the corner of my mouth. I think we should go together. Megan didn't answer right away. She just sat there looking at me across that little cafe table, like she was trying to decide whether I'd lost my mind. Outside, cars rolled past the window. People walked their dogs. A couple at the next table laughed about something on a laptop screen. The world kept moving like nothing had changed. But inside that quiet corner, everything had. You want to take me to my husband's party, she said slowly, with your wife there. Yeah. And you think that's a good idea? I think it's an honest one. She leaned back in her chair and crossed her arms, studying me. You're serious? Completely. For a moment, I thought she might laugh it off and walk out. That would have been the reasonable reaction. Instead, she looked down at the screenshots on my phone again. Her husband's words, my wife's replies. 6 months of secrets condensed into a few glowing rectangles on a screen. I knew something was wrong, she said quietly. Her voice had shifted. Not emotional exactly, but heavier. Last fall, Evan started traveling more. At first, it made sense. New development deals, new markets. But then little things started happening. Like what? She let out a small breath. He'd leave the room to take calls. Started sleeping with his phone face down. Password changed out of nowhere. I nodded slowly. Lauren started doing the same thing around then. Megan gave a humorless half smile. Funny how patterns show up once you know where to look. For a minute, we both just sat there, absorbing the strange symmetry of it. 2 marriages running parallel lives. Then she looked back at me. Okay, she said. Explain your idea. I leaned forward, lowering my voice slightly, even though no one nearby was paying attention. That party Evan's hosting next month. Lauren told me it's going to be big. Investors, developers, local business people. It will be, Megan said. He's been planning it for weeks. Exactly. She tilted her head slightly. And Evan and Lauren think their secret is safe. Her eyes sharpened. So you want to expose them? I shook my head. Not exactly. Then what? I took a second to find the right words. I want them to experience the same moment we did. What moment? That moment when the illusion breaks. Megan stared at me, waiting. So we show up together, I said. Not in a dramatic confrontational way, just casually. Her eyebrows lifted. You think that alone will do something? Maybe not immediately, I admitted. But imagine it from their perspective. I could see her mind turning already. Lauren thinks I'm clueless, I continued. Evan thinks you trust him. That part's apparently true, she muttered. They're comfortable, I said. Careless. That's why they're texting like teenagers. So you want to make them uncomfortable? Very. She tapped a finger slowly against the table. And what happens after we arrive? That depends on how they react. Meaning? I leaned back again. Meaning we don't start a scene. Not right away. We just exist in the same space. And watch them panic. Exactly. Megan went quiet. For the first time since the conversation started, there was a faint spark of something in her eyes. Not rage, not sadness, something colder. Have you ever done anything like this before? She asked. No. Me neither. A faint bitter smile crossed her face. Guess there's a first time for everything. The waiter came by to refill water glasses, and we both fell silent until he left. Then Megan spoke again. You realize this could blow up spectacularly. Oh, it will, I said. That doesn't bother you?
It did Tuesday. And now? Now I'm past that stage. She studied me carefully. You're calmer than I expected someone in your situation to be. I shrugged slightly. I had a couple days to process. That's not a lot of time. It's enough when the evidence is that clear. She picked up her iced coffee again but didn't drink it. What if I don't want to go to the party? She asked suddenly. That's your choice. And if I'd rather confront Evan tonight? Also your choice. And if I decide to pretend I never saw those messages? I met her gaze. Then I'll respect that too. Another quiet pause. Then she asked something that caught me off guard. Why involve me at all? I considered that for a moment. Because when I read those messages, I said slowly, there was a line Evan wrote that stuck with me. What line? He told Lauren you trusted him. Her jaw tightened slightly. I do, she said flatly. Exactly. I leaned forward again. I figured if my world was going to implode, the least I could do was make sure you weren't living in a lie either. She looked down at the table again. Most people would have just sent the screenshots anonymously. Maybe. Or confronted their spouse and demanded it end. Maybe. So why this? She asked quietly. Because they've been enjoying the thrill of getting away with it, I said, sneaking around, thinking they're smarter than everyone else. Her lips pressed into a thin line. And you want to take that away? Yeah. For the first time since we sat down, Megan laughed softly. Not amused, more like impressed. That's diabolical. Maybe. You're basically turning their own party into a psychological landmine. Pretty much. She shook her head slowly. You know what the crazy part is? What? I don't hate the idea. I felt a small shift of tension leave my shoulders. Good. But, she added, raising a finger, I have one condition. All right.
If we do this, we do it right. What does that mean? She leaned closer, lowering her voice the same way I had earlier. It means we don't just show up. I frowned slightly. What are you thinking? Her expression had hardened now. The calm observer from the launch party was still there, but something sharper had surfaced underneath. If Evan sees us walking in together casually, she said, he might just assume we ran into each other. True. We need something that makes it impossible for him to ignore. I raised an eyebrow. Like what? She held my gaze for a long second. Like you picking me up from the house. I blinked. Your house? Yes. So the neighbors see. And Evan's security cameras, she added. That hadn't even crossed my mind. You're serious, I said. Oh, very. Her voice had a quiet steel in it now. If my husband's been humiliating me for 6 months, she said, the least I can do is make his heart stop for about 30 seconds. I couldn't help it. I smiled. Not because the situation was funny, but because in that moment I realized something important. Megan Carter wasn't fragile. She wasn't naive. She was just someone who hadn't known the truth yet, until now. So, she said, finishing the last sip of her coffee, when exactly is this party? 3 weeks, I replied. Good. Good. She stood up and grabbed her purse. That gives us plenty of time. For what? She looked down at me. To make sure your wife and my husband never forget that night.